Rusame reader, Crow Song, and today I will be reading to you from Stars and Moonflowers in Our Garden by RainbowStar_772. That's me. Now, on to Chapter 13, Letters Are Distracting. Russia yawned a bit and looked at the time, finding it was actually very early right now. He stretched and got up, going to get dressed. Today he had a fencing class, so he needed to wear something that'd give him range of movement. So he went for some more loosely fitting clothes. So he ended up in a looser long-sleeve shirt that was sky blue and a pair of black pants. He then left his room and waited around until breakfast started. It was quiet, as usual. No one really spoke. After that, he decided to take the longer way to class, passing by the chamomile flowers. He noticed something under the flowers and got excited, running over. He picked up an envelope and read the names on it. He smiled to himself once he read "From Aku to Nix" on the back. He held it close to his chest and started running the rest of the way to his class. Once he was in the building, he started walking normally, a smile on his face. He couldn't help it, finding himself excited to get somewhere where he could read it. Sadly, class started before he could even open the envelope, so he did his best to pay attention. Thankfully, his first class wasn't fencing, but that didn't make it any easier to focus. It was his literature class, and he wished he could just read the letter from America instead. He'd live, though. He'd be reading it the moment class was over. The class felt like it stretched on forever. It was one of his favorite classes, but it was currently the bane of his existence. Eventually, the class finished, and Russia happily got up, running out and back to the main castle. He only had 3 classes today. He'd be able to read the letter and at least start writing a response before his next class. Once he got to his room, he sat at the desk and excitedly opened the letter, careful to not damage the letter or envelope. Dear Nix, I would not ignore a letter directed at me. Also, you calling me Night Gardener was adorable. Seeing as letters are more comfortable for you, I'm happy to continue writing. Whatever makes you comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable sharing your name, then that's fine with me. Tell me when you're ready. As for the potion that takes away the need for sleep, I'll ask. I could probably put some in a vial. I'll leave it with one of the letters. I, however, would suggest getting yourself a proper sleep schedule so that you have an ingrained sleep schedule. It helps make sure you wake up at necessary times. But if you have that, then you're golden. Also, I'm flattered that you think I look nice. I wish I knew what you looked like, but I'm sure you look great. Also, you'd be right to guess that me in work hours doesn't react how I would outside of them. I'm a disaster gay, according to my brother. He swears up and down that if someone who is my type were to even flirt with me in jest, that I'd die. He's right, and I hate it. As for what I think of Prince Russia, I personally like him. He hung out in my office the other day. I'd let him do so more often. I like his company, and he has a nice fashion sense. Also, if you are at all in contact with him, don't tell him I find him attractive. Soviet, my boss, teases me enough for it. He has to tease me for it at least once before he leaves my office. It's like he has a quota for it. Soviet does not let me call him king, and I still don't know why. If I ask, he says, "You know why," and I don't. If it's about me saving his life, then I slightly understand. Not fully, but I understand a little more. Also, I know Argentina because she's my friend's sister. And my friend, Mexico, agrees with you. He's glad I finally defended myself and has since told me I should have done more. None of your guesses are correct on what I am, but I would like to implore you to keep guessing. Please don't accidentally kill me when we meet up. I'd very much like to not collapse into a pile of extremely flustered person. As for the camera, I have an extra. I could leave it with my next letter. I'll give you a picture of Bean. He's a color point and a ragdoll Siamese mix. Sincerely, Aku. A little piece of paper fell out of the envelope with the letter. He read what it said on the back and chuckled. It said, "This is Bean. He is a bastard. A lovable bastard, but a bastard nonetheless." He flipped it over and found a color point cat with long hair. The cat had blue eyes and was walking down some stairs, staring at a red dot on the wall. He assumed that America had taken the picture, as he'd mentioned liking taking pictures. He then went back to rereading the letter, wanting to properly read what America had struck through with his pen. Eventually, he just sighed and started writing a response. He'd probably have a bit more later. He couldn't finish his response. He had to know what it said, so he just kept trying. He eventually deciphered it and flustered. Knowing America found him attractive was nice, but oh dear God, was it something that made his thoughts race. He found himself wondering if America ever had similar thoughts to the ones he'd had. He hoped that he might have. He'd tease America a bit about it, but he had no room to talk, especially considering his recent thoughts. He quickly wrote down what America had stricken through so that he could see what it said without hassle. He didn't do that on the page he was using for his response. He used a different sheet of paper. He checked the time, seeing he had another hour before he needed to get to his next class. He decided he'd use that time to finish writing his response letter. He happily continued writing. He wrote in a guess, and one he would have guessed if it wasn't something that have America disregarding any of his own medical advice. He finished up his response and got out an envelope, writing on the back, "From Nix, Dulaku," and waited for the ink on both to dry. He then searched around, quickly finding the camera his dad had let him borrow. He found a Natalie, his little void, and snapped a picture of him, sitting on a pink blanket. He smiled a little and slipped the picture into the envelope with a letter once it was done. He hoped America liked his cat. And that's the end of this chapter. I hope you enjoyed. Anyway, I'd like to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. That being said, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time, and I will see you tomorrow.